Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a fascinating story today. A story about a figure you might not know right off the bat,
Yeah,
but I guarantee you're going to want to. We're talking about Safiyyah bint AbdulMuttalib.
absolutely.
And our main source for this deep dive is a YouTube lecture by Dr. Omar Suleiman
Okay.
called Safiyyah bint AbdulMuttalib, may Allah be pleased with her, a warrior ant, the firsts.
I love that lecture.
Yeah, it's a good one.
hmm
So just to kind of set the scene here, you've probably heard of Hamza and Abbas, right?
Of course.
Two of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, most famous uncles.
Yes.
But did you know that he actually had 11 uncles in total?
Wow, I didn't realize it was that many.
Yeah, 11. And out of all those uncles and aunts,
Right.
only 3 are known to have accepted Islam with certainty.
That's a really interesting point. And you know, with the Sia being one of those three, it makes you wonder why her story isn't more well known.
Right, like you'd think she'd be a household name.
Exactly. I mean, she was the Prophet's aunt, A&D. She embraced Islam early on. Why isn't she talked about more?
So let's unpack that. What are your thoughts on why she might be one of these hidden figures in Islamic history?
Well, I think a few things might be at play here. First off, when you're talking about a family with 11 uncles and aunts,
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
someone's bound to get a little less attention.
Makes sense.
Plus, let's be real, history tends to focus on the men.
It does, unfortunately.
And while women's contributions were definitely important, their stories didn't always get recorded in the same way.
Yeah, so their roles kind of get lost in the bigger narrative.
Exactly.
And it's a shame because when you look at Safiyyah's life, it's so intricately connected to the Prophet's peace be upon him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were practically the same age.
But only a year apart.
More like siblings than aunt and nephew, really.
Yeah, and then you add in the fact that she was married to Khadijah's brother.
Right, so there were multiple layers of connection there.
It's like their lives were woven together from the start.
Totally. And you know, that marriage actually ended with her husband's death.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it left her a single mother. And in a society where widows and orphans often faced hardship, that really speaks to her strength and resilience.
Oh, absolutely. She was
Yeah.
clearly a woman who could handle anything.
Right. And then you look at how Dr. Suleiman describes her parenting, especially with her son as Zubair. He talks about her being a disciplinarian, someone who was really determined to raise a strong and independent son.
I remember that part. There's that anecdote where her brother-in-law criticizes her, right?
Yes, he accuses her of being too harsh with Az-Zubair.
And her response was epic.
It really was. She basically said, I'm disciplining him so he can grow up strong, so he can defend himself in a world that isn't always kind to orphans.
She even predicted that he would grow up to defeat armies.
Talk about foreshadowing.
Because Azubair did become this renowned warrior.
It's incredible, right?
And it makes you think, her methods might seem a little different to us today,
Sure.
but she was raising her son in a very different time and place, pre-Islamic Arabia.
Exactly. Where survival often depended on physical strength. And remember, Az-Zubair was an orphan, which made him even more vulnerable.
So she was preparing him for the reality of their world.
Exactly. She wanted him to be equipped to face whatever challenges came his way. And I think it's important to recognize that
Yeah.
even though her methods might seem harsh by today's standards, she was driven by a deep love for her son.
Like any parent, she just wanted to protect him.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that historical figures weren't just these one-dimensional characters in a textbook.
Right. They were real people.
They were real people making difficult choices within the context of their own time and circumstances.
And speaking of difficult choices, things get really interesting when Az-Zubair decides he wants to convert to Islam.
Oh, yeah, that's a pivotal moment.
Because you'd think Safiyyah, being a devout Muslim herself, would be thrilled.
You would.
But she actually resists it at first.
She does, and it really highlights the internal conflicts that many people faced during the early days of Islam.
Right, like imagine spending years preparing your child to survive in a hostile society.
Yeah.
And then they choose to join a group that's facing even more persecution.
It's like you've spent all this time teaching them to swim.
And then they jump into a raging ocean.
Exactly.
So her fear wasn't about Islam itself. It was about the very real dangers her son would face as a young, newly converted Muslim.
And it's a reminder that history isn't just about dates and battles, but about the personal anxieties and uncertainties that people experienced within those events.
So human, right?
Totally. It makes these historical figures so much more relatable.
Definitely. So what finally led Safiyyah to embrace Islam for herself?
Well, it's fascinating that her conversion coincides with that of Hamza, the Prophet's uncle.
Hamza, oh wow. I mean, he was known for his strength and boldness.
Exactly.
So his acceptance of Islam must have had a huge impact on those around him.
It did. His conversion was a turning point for many, including Safiyyah.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, it speaks to the power of influence.
Right, like how one person's actions can inspire others to stand up for what they believe in.
Absolutely. And that's just the beginning of Safiyyah's amazing story. We haven't even gotten to the warrior ant part yet.
Oh, I know. Let's save that for next time. I'm already hooked.
Me too. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.
Stay tuned, everyone, because this story's about to get even more epic.
All right, so are you ready to see Safiyyah in action?
Oh, absolutely. Bring on the warrior ant.
Okay, so picture this. The Battle of Uhud. It's a fierce battle between the Muslims and the Meccan forces.
Okay.
And things are not going well for the Muslims.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're suffering heavy losses. News of these casualties starts to spread.
Right.
And it causes chaos and grief. People are rushing towards the battlefield, desperate to find their loved ones.
I can only imagine the panic.
And in the midst of all this, we have Safiyyah, armed with a dagger,
Wow.
heading straight towards the carnage.
She doesn't hesitate at all.
Not one bit. And the prophet, peace be upon him, knowing the horrific state of the battlefield, he specifically sent her son, as Zubair,
Right.
to intercept her, to try to shield her from that gruesome sight.
So he knew she'd be heading there.
Oh, absolutely. But Safiyyah was determined.
It's like nothing was going to stop her.
Exactly. And there's this powerful exchange between them where he pleads with her to stop.
Oh, wow.
But she pushes him aside, demanding to know if the Muslims have abandoned the prophet, peace be upon him.
She's so fierce.
Oh, yeah. She's ready to defend him and those who stand with him no matter what.
That's incredible.
And what's remarkable is that as soon as Zubair tells her that the prophet himself commanded her to stop, she immediately obeys.
Really?
Yeah, she puts her faith above her own feelings in that moment.
That's true devotion.
Absolutely. Eventually, she was permitted to see Hamza's body.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. She
Yeah.
spends the entire night by his side praying for forgiveness.
It's a powerful image, of how faith can provide comfort in times of grief.
Yes, it really is.
So Uhud was clearly a defining moment for Safiyyah.
Yeah.
But her story doesn't end there, right?
Oh, not even close. The Battle of the Trench is another incredible example of her courage. It was a really critical moment for the Muslims.
Okay, tell me more about that.
They were facing a massive siege by their enemies.
I can imagine that was pretty terrifying.
Outnumbered, outmatched. And to make matters worse, there was this threat from within.
What do you mean?
There were hypocrites and some allied tribes plotting to attack the Muslims from behind their lines.
So they were basically surrounded.
Exactly. It was a desperate situation. Now, while the main fighting force is at the trench, there's a small group of women, children, and the elderly sheltering in a fortress.
Okay.
2 enemy soldiers approach, planning to ambush them. And there's a poet named Hassan ibn Thabit who's with them.
Hassan ibn Thabit.
But he's not a fighter. He freezes, terrified.
So they're completely defenseless.
Well, not completely. Safiyyah grabs a pole, hides behind the door, and waits.
No way. What does she do?
As the enemy soldier cautiously enters, she strikes him with the pole, killing him instantly.
You're kidding. She took him out just like that.
Just like that. And then she does something even more ingenious.
What?
She throws the body over the fortress wall.
Why would she do that?
So the enemy reinforcements think there's an entire army waiting for them inside.
That's so smart.
She single-handedly scared off an entire group of attackers.
I can't believe it. She outsmarted them.
It's brilliant, right?
It totally is. She's like a military strategist.
Well, the prophet, peace be upon him, did call her his own army.
It makes total sense. She really embodies that warrior spirit.
Oh, yeah. And think about the impact this must have had on her son, Zubair, who was witnessing his mother's bravery firsthand.
It's no wonder he grew up to be such a fearless warrior himself.
It's like a direct connection, right?
Totally. It makes you wonder how many other stories of incredible women like Safiyyah are out there, just waiting to be discovered.
I know. It's exciting to think about all the hidden gems of history that are still being uncovered.
And how much we can learn from their examples of courage and resilience.
Absolutely. But Safiyyah's story isn't over yet. Did you know that her life extended beyond the prophet's time?
Really?
Oh.
I had no idea. Tell me more.
Yeah, she lived to witness both the triumphs and tragedies of the early Muslim community. And get this, she even produced her own poetry.
Wow, really? A poet and a warrior.
That's right. And her poems offer another fascinating glimpse into her character.
I'm especially curious about the one she wrote eulogizing the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Oh, those are incredibly moving. In one of them, she describes him as a sun enveloped in darkness, yet still shining.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It's a metaphor for the enduring light of guidance he brought to the world, even after his passing.
It really speaks to the way his message continued to resonate, even in the face of adversity.
Exactly, and it's fitting that a woman who embodied such strength and resilience
Hmm.
would choose such evocative language to honor a man who, like her, faced so many challenges but never wavered in his purpose.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The way she was able to channel her grief into something so meaningful.
It's a testament to her deep faith and her profound respect for the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Safiyyah's story really makes me think about how we remember influential figures in our own lives.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, how do we carry their light and their lessons even when they're gone?
It's something to reflect on for sure. How do we ensure that their legacy continues to inspire us?
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the life of Safiyyah bint AbdulMuttalib, I'm left with a profound sense of admiration
Me too.
and inspiration. Her story is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit.
It really is. And it reminds us that we all have the potential to leave a lasting impact on the world.
To be forces for good
Exactly.
and to inspire generations to come, just like Safiyyah did.
What a legacy, right?
It is. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering the hidden gems of history.
See you then.